Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw 2 boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so that they began to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of fish they had taken. And so also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." When they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Forget everything you've been taught. If you want to follow Jesus, you have to be caught. Once upon a time, there was a father and a son that were on the journey towards the fishing spot to which they had visited many, many times. They were going to drive to this bridge that spanned a large expanse of water. Same bridge, same water, same place. And they went there time after time, expecting for that big catch. So off they went. They stopped in the usual spot. They unloaded all their gear, fishing rods, tackle box, cooler, dinner, maybe a little breakfast. They were going at night. And of course, they had a generator and a bucket full of lights that they used to attract fish. No nets. They rolled all their gear out. They set everything up. And there, as the sun was going down, they had their traditional dinner together. And they began to think about what the night would present. The air quality was great. The temperature was wonderful. The water was the right temperature. The wind was out of the right direction. Everything was clear. And they had been at that fishing ground not long ago, and it yielded a great catch. This night was sure to be a good night. So when the sun went down and it got dark, they flipped on the generator, they turned the lights on down below, and here you see these big pylons and the water swishing back and forth. The tide is rolling in. It looked beautiful. They fished all night long. They fished on the bottom, they fished on the top. They used cut bait, live bait, they used lures. They even thought about throwing the kitchen sink. They had maybe 2 or 3 in the box, and that was it. So they were a little disappointed when midnight rolled around. And the son suggested that he would go to the other side of the bridge and scout it out. He went over, it was dark, he listened, and he thought he heard something. So he came back, told the father. The father said, "Well, what have we got to lose? It's the same bridge, it's the same water. I'm ready to go anyway." So they loaded everything up, crossed over the bridge onto the other side, lowered everything down, turned on the generator, on the lights, and they had never seen anything like it in their lives. Minnows like a carpet. You couldn't even hardly see the water. And every now and then they would scatter as a fish came up to grab one for its meal. One after the other. They got so excited. They put their lures in the water, and one after another they were catching fish like never in their lives. And now, as they are spent and tired, and the light is beginning to flicker of the sunrise, they look at 70 fish laid out in size to which they'd never seen before. It was amazing. I'll never forget that night with my father. You knew I was going to tell a fishing story today. Come on. I wait for the gospel to get on these types of stories because it's just open season for me to share some of the things I've seen in my life. I bet you have your own type of fishing stories. I bet you've been places to where you just say, I ain't never seen anything like that happen in my life before. And of course, I may be allegorizing a little bit, going beyond the scope of being a fisher of fish to maybe something that's a little bit more broad, a little more high and deep. The story that we hear today is about fishermen. And it's not just fishing for fish. And although we're tempted to allegorize the message, I will say this. In the gospel according to St. Luke, they were real fishermen. Those were real boats. Those were real fish. But what is Jesus trying to tell us in this story today? I'm going to back up a little bit. When you go into something such as fishing, you have great hope and expectations of the unknown. But what do you have to do in order to truly be prepared? You've got to be open. You've got to be ready for whatever might come. It's that excitement that builds and that hope for what is not seen that keeps you engaged and want to do it time and time, to go back to those same fishing grounds, if you will. Isaiah was one of those. Young Isaiah. And he had this amazing vision of where God is calling him by name, and the seraph and the cherubim are there at the Holy of Holies, and we can hear those voices, holy, 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 and we bow ourselves as if to say, we shouldn't be seeing what we're seeing. We shouldn't be here where we are, and yet we are so moved because of what? We had nothing, and now we have something. We were ordinary, and now we're extraordinary. We were shallow, and now we're deep. The message of Christ transforms our lives, gives us the story of all stories of how God reached out to us like he did young Isaiah. And what does it say in that vision? That I got this picture of tongues, right? Where they go and they get the incense and the coal from the throne seat and they touch the tongue of Isaiah. And then we get that beautiful song that we all hear when the Lord calls out, who shall I send? And we say, here I am, Lord. You're ready to go fishing. You forget all that you've been taught. Because you know at that moment to follow God, you must be caught. This is a good kind of catch. All right? Jesus was undoubtedly someone that Peter knew. Peter's mom was sick just a few verses before, maybe a week, and Jesus healed his mother. And now he's on the shore. All these people at Gennesaret, southern Capernaum, are coming out to listen and be fed and expecting to see something they've never seen before. To hear something that gives them a sense of renewal, something that fills them up and gives them something that they yearn for. You see, these people wanted to be caught. They wanted to be caught up into something greater than themselves, greater than their problems, greater than their fears, greater than their insecurities. And so Jesus told Peter, hey, Peter, well, I'm paraphrasing. Peter, let's get in the boat and let's just go a little bit over where they can hear us better. I'll be out in the water. It'll project well. I'm assuming that's what Jesus was thinking, because that is the implication that he wanted to be in a position to where the people could hear him really well. Luke doesn't record what was actually said at that moment, but it must have been pretty good. Because Peter had been fishing all night long with James and John. Their two boats were docked, and they had put those nets. Nets are heavy, by the way, when they're really wet. And they were letting them dry in the sun. It takes hours. Their muscles were fatigued. They just wanted a good meal. Jesus wanted to preach. They wanted to go home. They wanted to get some sleep. And Jesus said, nah, we're going to go and take this boat out, and we're going to do some more fishing. Do you think Peter wanted to go fishing? But hey, when God calls, right? Jesus moved from being a teacher to being a master at the moment to which Peter obeyed and said, "What have I got to lose? I don't have anything already, so what have I got to lose? I will oblige Jesus and I will take him out." And we know how the story goes, that the nets went down. It says a whole shoal of fish. Have you seen a shoal? Have you been to the beach? You know what a shoal is, right? That's a large swath of area. As far as you can see, those nets were trying to take in all those fish. And Peter cried out in help to James and John, who were on the shore, "Get in the second boat and get out here now." And they could see that they were toiling out there. And they came out and they helped. Do you think that had a lasting impact on these lifelong fishermen? You better believe it did. They thought they saw everything. They thought they knew all there was to know about fishing. And this guy, who was a carpenter's son, knows nothing about the water, tells us to do this, and this is what happens, something to which we will never forget. Yeah, they were ready. They were ready to go and follow Jesus. They forgot everything that they were taught. And Jesus says, kind of, not so fast, "I will make you fishers of men." So keep that in mind. He didn't tell them that they would have to stop being fishermen. God is not telling you to stop doing the things you're doing in your everyday life, whether it's working at Publix, or you're a school teacher, or you drive a truck, or you work from home. Whatever your occupation is, God can find you there. He can work with you there, and he can call you there. The problem we have is that we get so programmed. We get so caught up in the routine that we don't go looking and thinking anything's going to change. But I know Jesus is calling you by name. I know Jesus is saying, "I need us to go where the water's a little deeper." He's calling us to trust in him. Peter was actually referred to as Simon Peter in this particular 5th chapter of Luke. And then his name changes exclusively to Peter. When you meet the risen Lord, something is happening. Something is changing in your life. Simon becomes Peter. And you know, those disciples, it dawned on me, they didn't have any formal seminary training. They probably didn't go to temple that often unless they were required by custom. They were mostly on the water. So if they didn't have the teaching, and they didn't have a deep sense of rooted in the understanding of the temple, what is Jesus saying in this account? There's something much more fundamental that's in every single one of us. It's about how our spirit responds to the calling of Christ. Have you been in those places before, where Jesus called you, but you had a hard time following because, I'm not worthy? I think we have that in our prayers in the Eucharist, as a matter of fact. "I'm not worthy so much as to gather at the crumbs under thy table, but speak the word only, and my soul shall be healed." God loves that humility of the fisherman. He loves the fact that you're open and you come before him just with great expectations and being open. He can do great work with that. Walter Russell Bowie. Have you heard of his name before? He had a wonderful quote about what it's like to be called by God. And he was a very learned man, very scholarly. He taught at Virginia Theological. He taught at Union up in New York. And Walter said this before he died. He says, "To become a disciple does not depend upon knowledge and learning and original orthodoxy. It depends upon the impulse of the Spirit that wants to follow Jesus. And when that impulse is obeyed, all the rest will come." Being a fisherman is a simple life with great rewards. And sometimes I think in the same places, the same water, the same bridge, and yet another Father called upon his Son to go to the other side. He came to the other side so that we could be caught. His love, his passion for each and every one of you is so sincere that he will do anything and go to great lengths to meet you where you are. That's the beauty of Christ. Just a bridge, just a cross. This was used in order to get our attention and to call us into deep water. So, dearly beloved, forget everything that you've been taught. Because if you want to really follow Jesus, you have to be caught.